joined together to show that football stands together. Well, despite the fact that Manchester United played only 3 days ago, Erik ten Hag selects the majority of the team that beat Barcelona. David de Gea is the only player who started their last win in this competition 6 years ago today. One of the two changes from Thursday night is at right back, where Diogo Dalot is preferred to Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Casemiro's domestic suspension after his sending off against Crystal Palace has been served just in time to enable him to play. The injury scare over top scorer Marcus Rashford proved unfounded. Antony, the impact substitute against Barcelona, starts ahead of Jadon Sancho. Wout Weghorst, hooked at half-time in the week, maintains his record of starting every match of his loan spell. Club captain Harry Maguire is among the substitutes, whilst 18-year-old Alejandro Garnacho is the youngest member of the squad. There's no doubt about Eddie Howe's biggest headache approaching the Wembley showpiece. An extraordinary set of circumstances mean that the Newcastle debut of Loris Karius is in the League Cup final. The back four pretty much picks itself, with Fabian Schär the one link there to the era that preceded Howe. Like Casemiro, Bruno Guimaraes has served a suspension in time to play, but unlike him, he's not had European football to get up to speed. Callum Wilson's back from injury to join top scorer Miguel Almiron and Alan St-Maximin, who's been on the periphery this season. Joe Willock is fit enough for the bench, where the local connection to Newcastle is strengthened by the presence of backup goalkeeper Mark Gillespie.
33, Dan Burn. 36, Sean Longstaff. And 39, Bruno Guimaraes.
Well, huge relief, Gary, for Manchester United that Marcus Rashford's in the team.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have much doubt, but you're right, there was that risk that he did pick up something in that game on Thursday. We've just seen him line up on the left-hand side, Marcus Rashford, which is as confirmed, but I did wonder whether he would start more central. It looks like he is going to begin on the left, and obviously what a huge day for Loris Karius.
It is the 63rd League Cup final, the 50th played at Wembley, and Manchester United get it underway. And we are looking as the first touch is given to Loris Karius at just what this goalkeeper does today, Jamie.
Yeah, people keep going back to that final, I can understand that, but there's no doubt he's a confident lad, but I think the big worry maybe coming into the game is there's lack of football more than what happened, you know, 4 or 5 years ago in a game. It's a long time ago, but he hasn't had much football since.
There are living, breathing reminders in the opposition of that horrendous night that he suffered in Kiev, because Casemiro and Rafael Varane were part of the Real Madrid team on the night when the two huge gaps from Karius cost his team so dearly. Dalot just letting that free kick float by, and a first touch of the ball for the Manchester United goalkeeper David de Gea. Eddie Howe, who played at the old Wembley the year before Newcastle were last here in a major final. He was on the losing team against a side in black and white stripes as Grimsby beat his Bournemouth side in the Football League Trophy final. Aiming one out to Marcus Rashford, who has started out on the left. We did wonder just how this Manchester United side would line up. Weghorst got it through. Rashford's ball across is dealt with by Botman.
Well, that's a really confident start. I wondered whether Rashford would play against Trippier. Trippier could obviously run him forward, but he gets in behind his England teammate. Trippier's a bit slow to react. He just plays it across first time. Antony and Bruno Fernandes making the way in. Important interception.
Well, this is the moment for Newcastle to be focused, concentrated for the in-swinging delivery of Luke Shaw.
Yeah, but you look at what they're doing around the goalkeeper.
Yeah, it's obvious they're going to try and mess with his head.
Crouching in front of him to try to unsettle him as it's swung in, dealt with for now. He was well protected on that occasion. That's the kind of thing they'll have to keep up. It's a great break this from Miguel Almiron. He's tried to slide it through the middle when maybe Alan Saint-Maximin, who was up with him to his left, was a better option. Here's Fernandez. Now Anthony. Anthony looking to take on Dan Burn, who was one of the first Newcastle players out once the crowd were in to sample the atmosphere. Was almost being treated by his own fans like a rock star. But for players like him, this is a big opportunity. Might be their last opportunity, Jamie, to make a big splash for Newcastle.
Yeah, I think the expectation in the next few years where Newcastle feel like they go and they'll be back at Wembley and competing for trophies, but that may not be the case for a lot of this team. Got a huge chance today to create history and be known as the team who brought that first trophy back after so long. So it's a huge day for these individual players as well as the club, but as I said, we all anticipate that the club will be back.
1969, the last time they won a major trophy, Newcastle, the Fairs Cup. Generations of fans who haven't seen them do it. They need to be probably about 60 plus to remember Newcastle winning a major trophy. Joe Linton to Bruno Guimaraes, and here's Callum Wilson. Just got caught up in his feet and Varane pounced. Now Anthony runs into Burn. It was a tricky decision that for Eddie Howe between Callum Wilson, who's only just coming back from injury, and his club record signing Alexander Isak, who's on the bench. Up towards Weghorst, who's not had his reward in terms of goals for Manchester United, but his work ethic beyond question.
Yeah, even though he came off or was substituting in the game on Thursday, there's no doubt, I don't think in anyone's mind, that he's going to come straight back in. He's been an important fixture for Erik ten Hag.
And he accepted that decision and the validity of it to take him off at half-time to work there against Joe Linton, who's aiming to free Alan Saint-Maximin. Saint-Maximin rolls it into the path of Almiron. Saint-Maximin trying to weave a way through. Guimaraes on the scene. It was Fred who was aiming to break it up and has ended up paying a personal cost.
He did really well there, Fred. That man was running hard into the box, and Fred just had to leave the position he was in. Saint-Maximin is a difficult customer. You just see where Luke Shaw gets dragged across, and Fred just initially backs off, but then he has to leave Longstaff and move forward towards Guimaraes. He gets a whack on the way.
I mean, Newcastle have started quite quickly, been taking the ball in midfield. Guimaraes, Joe Linton, shown composure, just feel on the back of Manchester United having a lot of games and playing Thursday night. That was imperative that Newcastle came off the blocks. You know, Manchester United have the edge maybe in terms of quality on the pitch and what's on the bench to change the game, so the start of the game is vital, and they've certainly got them singing in these early minutes.
Here's Saint-Maximin trying to take on Dalot, who stretches and reaches it.
You were surprised, Cara, that you thought that Wan-Bissaka would play against Saint-Maximin, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I watched Saint-Maximin against Liverpool. He caused huge problems, and I just think the physicality of Wan-Bissaka, maybe one of the best 1v1 right backs you'll find anyway. I was quite surprised when I saw the team.
Well, whatever route it takes to goal will be used. It's the long throw held in. Joe Linton with a flick on, and it's cleared for now by Luke Shaw. Trippier tries to get them moving again. Cher with a flick on, and away by Lisandro Martinez. There's Rashford. And this is Fred, who's been used to playing a more advanced role at times under Erik ten Hag. Got his goal to help the comeback against Barcelona on Thursday. After The emotion of that night, can Manchester United lift it again? Here's Shaw. Now Rashford. Share in the way. That's Fred trying to keep Newcastle under pressure. Byrne with a clearance. Now Guimaraes. Warned of the arrival of Weghorst, who did foul him, and the free kick was quickly taken, but not from the correct position. David Kutus, today's match referee, has brought it back. Refereed Manchester United at the start of their journey in this competition, but it's the first time he's overseen a Newcastle game this term.
Well, Guimaraes is to Newcastle what Casemiro is to United.
And both are back, having just served domestic bans. And that's the thing about the questions over Nick Pope's red card, and whether they should be competition specific. If they were, Guimaraes wouldn't be playing today. Anthony somehow seemed to find a way through the first man, but couldn't get past Dan Burn as well. Here's Joe Linton. Guimaraes. And now Saint-Maximin is taken down by Dalla.
Yeah, be lucky to get away with a booking there. The Newcastle players all around the referee asking for that yellow card. I think they've got a point. Really sharp play from Newcastle out of defence.
Well, no allowance for the occasion. It is a yellow card for Dalot.
Yeah, you see, you can't argue with that. I think no referee really in a huge game wants to start bringing the cards out so quickly, but the composure Newcastle have shown passing through midfield has been fantastic, but he's away from Dalot there, and that is going to be a problem. Saint-Maximin on that left side. Sure, the message would be keep feeding that man on the left-hand side, but I've been so impressed with certainly Guimaraes and Joe Linton in these early stages. No nerves at all, prepared to get on the ball, take the ball and make passes.
It still mesmerises me, this high line from these free kicks. So foreign to what we're used to as players, but it works. Every team does it now.
Trippier trying to find a way past it.
I mean, it's interesting, Gary. 2 free kicks around there, around the halfway line. You're conditioned now to watch football where it's not just a pass. Twice he's gone long. There's been a long throw as well, so that's obviously part of the plan, isn't it, to go a bit more direct.
I think they'll fancy themselves in those exchanges. United haven't got the biggest back four.
If they get a kick within sight of goal, Trippier will be going for goal himself, such as his good record from free kicks. And further out, wider out at the moment. Ball had crossed the touchline. It has been a really positive start from Eddie Howe's Newcastle.
It is cold. Although seeing the Newcastle manager put his coat on while the fans have got the tops off. Bit of a contradiction. There you go.
Tradition. Carefully honed body. Plenty of talk about the dark arts from Newcastle, and Erik ten Hag was warning about the annoying time wasting, and this kick has been delayed by Wilson's reluctance to move the full 10 yards. But at 0-0, Manchester United prepared to wait. Into Bruno Fernandes. And here's Dalot to Varane. Martinez. To Varane. Anthony. There's Fernandes. show of his fancy footwork to Dan Burn. And by Fred, here's Weghorst. And still! Not the cleanest connection, so it was straightforward for Karius to deal with.
In the game last weekend, the Premier League game against Leicester, he came close on a number of occasions. His finishing is an issue for him because that is a good chance. For most centre-forwards at the very top of the game, you'd fancy them.
First shot of the game. Here's Trippier, and Wilson was suddenly free. Share. Trippier. Now Longstaff. Rice. Trippier fires it across beyond Joe Linton and cleared by Raphael Varane. Burn to keep it alive for Newcastle. Manchester United at the moment seem prepared to let Newcastle come on to them.
I don't think it's too much of an option, really. Newcastle have started quick. I always feel when that's happened to me quite a lot in my career, when you play on a Thursday night and play Sunday. People always talk about tiredness, but a lot of the time you'd start sluggish and get stronger as the game goes on. I expected this type of start, really, to be honest, from Manchester United, but I do envisage that they will get stronger as the game goes on.
Here's St. Maximin.
I think in the last two games, Barcelona did well against United on Thursday night, and Leicester, I thought, should have been at least 2 goals up last Sunday in the Premier League game. Manchester United do start quite slowly in these couple of recent games. Newcastle have started really well, they're sharp, they're at it, as you'd expect.
A bit longer to prepare since that defeat by Liverpool, which saw Nick Pope's red card put their plans for this final into some disarray. Casemiro. Anthony. Dalot pulls it across. Weghorst was in there lurking again, but it's Guimaraes who gets it away.
Well, Fred at one end stopped Guimaraes, and Guimaraes has just stopped Fred. It's really good play from Manchester United. Just makes that little run down that channel. It's a brilliant cross from Dalot. Guimaraes steals in front of Fred.
It was interesting watching Botman at that near post. Had a big decision to make. Does he stick his leg out, try and block it? Decided to leave it. His centre-back partner come to the rescue initially.
Manchester United fans have turned the east end of this stadium into the Stretford end. Newcastle supporters at the west end, which is probably where the story of their season will end up if they finally win a major trophy and Loris Karius turns out to be the hero. Well, it's gone all the way through to Marcus Rashford. Anthony hits one. It's there in the end. Here's Trippier. Sven Botman, who was actually released from Ajax by Erik ten Hag because he preferred the options of a former United player in Daley Blind and a current one in Lisandro Martinez, who was just putting the pressure on Callum Wilson there. It's Longstaff. Now Alan St. Maximin. St. Maximin already with the psychological edge over Dalot because of that early yellow card picked up by the Manchester United fullback Fernandes. Rashford has gone more central now. Here's Almiron. Trippier. Almiron couldn't take the return on board.
Gary, when you were speaking to the Manchester United manager before the game, I think he mentioned about Fernandez's role, trying to get in behind that midfield. Fred's trying to do the same, just haven't quite got in there yet, have they?
No, it's one of the things when Anthony plays, he obviously fixes that right-hand side, which means then that Weghorst and Bruno are obviously usually in the team. Rashford on the left, it means you have the two up front in Bruno and Weghorst, haven't got the pace.
Weghorst is ahead of Casemiro here, but he looks for Marcus Rashford, and Kieran Trippier got himself in the way.
Yeah, I actually like it when Bruno's a little bit to the right and you've got Rashford up top with Weghorst off him maybe, with somebody else on the left. It just gives them a better balance. If you're Schär and Botman, you're happy having Weghorst up there versus, say, Rashford, who can obviously run in behind.
Almiron. Here's Longstaff. Put out by Alessandro Martinez. Might be an issue here for Manchester United. It looks as though Anthony's struggling a little bit.
Yeah, holding that left groin. With a brilliant introduction to the game on Thursday. But Manchester United are playing every 3 days and there will be injuries picked up because of that.
The goal he scored on Thursday was the 19th scored by a Manchester United substitute this season, and that is where Erik ten Hag has really shown himself to be a great manager in the way that he changes things from the bench.
Yeah, he profits so much and he changes his front four in particular, not just the players but the actual positions of those players so regularly in games.
Fernandez has made the forward run this time. After Botman to hold him off. Burn.
United so far, Anthony is the highest up the pitch. Next to Weghorst. That's where Newcastle centre-backs will be most comfortable. They've got the threat of the pacing behind them centrally. Because Newcastle's front three are really sharp if they can get good quality into them.
On doing the dirty work. Here's Luke Shaw. Martinez released quickly to Fred. He does bring it back for the free kick in the end. Here's Martinez. Now Varane. Anthony's ball across, but Botman in the way. Linton trying to set Maximan free.
Just say Eddie Howe talking to Dan Bain on that side. Just gets a little bit of a problem with the actual role of Dalot. Dalot makes a lot of inside runs, actually running in behind the back four, drags Dan Bain inside, and then he's free on that side. But this could be a problem.
That's not good
for Newcastle.
That is not good for Newcastle. He shakes his head ominously.
They shuddered when he had his red card in the semi-final over the fears that they might lose him. Although, as it turned out, the suspension was able to be served during the Premier League. He had just before that had an injury at the end of a game as well, which I thought was going to rule him out for longer than it actually did.
Yeah, and he's quite calm sat there, but he just shakes his head and he's obviously not comfortable with something. There are the games where he hasn't played. It's been difficult without him.
Yeah, haven't won any of that half dozen, which gives an indication as to just how crucial he is.
He looks dazed. Thrown some water over his head. Anthony asking if he's okay.
on for now. Here's Varane. Now Martinez. Botman. Now Joe Linton. Way through for St Maximin, fended off for now. Still finds Guimaraes. He's been as competitive as ever, but loses out there. This is Weghorst. Now Fred. A bit into no man's land, and Joe Linton managed to get there to feed St Maximin. Immediate switch out towards Almiron, but Luke Shaw in the way. There's Kieran Trippier.
Well, it's been a pretty scruffy first 23 minutes in terms of quality from both teams. I say about Wembley, it's a very difficult ground to play your best football on. You just very rarely see brilliant performances. Both teams placing so much importance on it always, whoever it is and whatever the occasion. You don't see them to see the freedom in the game that you may see in the normal week-to-week football.
Well, such has been the build-up. Newcastle probably relieved to get that out of the way, to play the match and not the occasion. Still have settled well here. Still looking to seriously trouble David De Gea though. Here's Botman. Now Cher. Almiron. Trippier with the ball across. Fabian Cher had got forward, and there was a clash of heads with Martinez.
Cher starts the attack, he's the one that drives forward. And we know that Trippier's quality is going to be good. But Martinez, whilst he doesn't win it, he does enough, he competes and puts the Newcastle man off.
Well, after all the doubts about Martinez, you've been impressed with him, haven't you, Jamie?
Yeah, it's not just his ability as a player, I think there's the actual spirit, himself and Casemiro. It does feel like you're watching a different Manchester United, and that's not just down to buying players. There's a togetherness and a spirit you see with Manchester United now, which makes me feel actually the start of this game maybe not started as well as he would have liked, but they're still in the game. You know that at some stage they'll come back. As I said, there has been a real spirit with this group throughout the season. We saw that no better than most than what we saw on Thursday night against Barcelona.
I think the thing about Martinez, Casemiro, I mean, they're obviously very good football players, but they've got that horrible side to them, haven't they? That you get the feeling they do anything to win a football match. And that rubs off. They haven't always been the sort of most streetwise team, Manchester United, a little bit nice in these last few years. Those two know the way around the block.
There have been some eyebrows raised when he paid as much as he did for a player who's now just turned 31 in Casemiro, but he's proved his value. And Martinez obviously was a player that Ten Hag knew of old. Well, here's a man who's seen a few of these occasions down the years. Saw Newcastle in an FA Cup final back in 1999 on the way to the glorious treble. That you remember fondly, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, we played Newcastle here, obviously in '99, and the atmosphere was very similar, but the Newcastle team didn't turn up that day. They were really poor and disappointing. quite surprising actually. You don't expect there to be a comfortable final. You expect in the second half there to be a ferocious sort of fight back, but that never happened. I mean, we were in London last night, about 100 yards from Trafalgar Square. I don't know why we stayed there, to be fair. But there were thousands of them around us. It was.
I was with them.
They were everywhere. It was a hood-up job.
Well, their colours are so distinctive when they've got their shirts on, anyway. But outside Wembley was swamped with black and white shirts. Almost like walking through a mobile zebra crossing. You talk about that past disappointment for Newcastle back in 1999. Alan Shearer's spoken of the embarrassment at having an open-top bus parade after a defeat, which Eddie Howe has ruled out on this particular occasion. Getting to the final now for Newcastle in itself isn't going to be good enough. They need to start winning them.
68 years without a domestic trophy for a club the size of Newcastle and scale as Newcastle is unbelievable. But he's got them back competing for trophies straight away, Eddie Howe.
Well, the owners who are trying to end that long record without a trophy are here to witness what they hope will be the first step in the journey.
Well, just looking down, hopefully both players can come back on. Martin's got to come back on, but Joe Linton's just dropped himself in at centre-back. Simon, the club's a centre-forward, dropped into midfield. Now trying to win headers in the middle of a back four.
Well, he hasn't had to do that for long. Shearer is now back on. Doesn't look too convinced though, does he? It looked as though Botman was asking him if he was all right. Shake of the head.
We saw Guimaraes earlier on looking a little dazed. Shearer doesn't look comfortable at all. So
here's Fred. Now Weghorst. Guimaraes. Byrne tries to pull it across. Fred. There's Weghorst. Longstaff. Here's Kieran Trippier. Longstaff. Back from Almiron to Bruno Guimaraes. There's Trippier. To Share. Almiron to Trippier. Longstaff pulled into a dangerous area. It's St Maximin, lovely feed from him, pushed away by De Gea, and Guimaraes can't keep it down.
Well, that's got the Newcastle fans up at the other end of this stadium. First time they've had a real big chance. They've worked it really well at times down this right-hand side. Longstaff always makes that run. There's no one making that cross in. And you think the attack's gone, but that's absolutely fantastic by St Maximin. Guimaraes just cannot finish, but the footwork was fantastic. But the goalkeeper does really well, just stands there, makes himself big and says, beat me. And he can't do that.
Well, St Maximin's been generally reduced to cameo appearances this season, partly because of his own injuries. Here's Rashford. Eased out of the way by Bruno Guimaraes.
he's holding his face, Rashford. Just looked like a shoulder barge. There he goes, he just caught Marcus Rashford. Just looked like it was a hefty one, wasn't it? Wasn't shoulder to shoulder. That's why it's a foul.
He seemed to have the world on his shoulders last season, Marcus Rashford, but a transformed figure this year. Shaw sweeps in, the kick, it's there! It's Manchester United who draw first blood, and Casemiro, the man in the middle of the celebrations, is the scorer.
Well, Casemiro, he is a man for the big occasion. I was watching him before this ball came in. There was a big space for Luke Shaw to put it in. We talked about the high lines. Is he just offside? We'll have a look at that. But as it comes in, Casemiro, he's done it before, but he is really, really close. That could just be off. And Newcastle may breathe a huge sigh of relief. Let's have a look. So difficult. Those lines are going to have to go on.
Well, Newcastle could yet get a reprieve here. 2018, the first final for which VAR was introduced, and Newcastle may just be grateful for its introduction. We await the lines going on.
He looks just off, but we've been wrong so many times before when we thought that.
Oh, it looks good. It is good.
On.
It's a goal. And they can celebrate it all over again. An expensive investment from Erik ten Hag, but one that has more than proven its worth.
Well, he's the glue in this team, Casemiro, the one that holds them together.
Goal number 5 of the season for Casemiro, his first in the League Cup. He'd scored 2 in each of the other 2 domestic competitions. But on the big stage, he's got Manchester United ahead as they aim to win this first trophy under Erik ten Hag. What have Newcastle got in response? Guimaraes. And again, Bruno Guimaraes. Trippier. Back from Almiron. Trippier was sold short, but still manages to pull it across, and it's Weghorst who comes back to do the defending. Trippier.
That's why Weghorst is in the team. He's centre forward and he's defending in his own box. The work he does off the ball is very good.
So Maximan's going to try and shake off Diogo Dalot.
Someone's going to get booked.
Bruno Fernandes was complaining, but it was actually behind him. He was complaining on Fred's behalf, and Fred is the player who's been shown the yellow card.
Well, Newcastle, I think, have been the better team in this first 35 minutes, but Manchester United find themselves in front. I was just about to say, would we see another Erik ten Hag switch of that front four, because not a lot's happening.
Yeah, comes in, and Martinez, I think, just comes through the back of Wilson. He's not too happy about it, but we've seen a lot of free kicks today that have gone right in that box. And he just comes through the back. We know he's aggressive. There's no doubt if free kicks on the halfway line are going in, this one's going to go in and be the same, but can Kieran Trippier deliver the way Luke Shaw delivered at the other end? Fantastic. Right on the money for Casemiro. But we know he's got the ability, this man, to put it in the right area for Newcastle.
What do you make of Newcastle's line on that free kick on the defending for the goal? I mean, it just seems to give a lot of space to Luke Shaw to it. In behind, too inviting, too much space with the two.
Every team does it now, and the reason why they do it is the header has to become a bit further away from goal, but it still has to be some header.
The kick is in the path of Callum Wilson. Almiron, not on his favoured side.
I think it works, the high line. I think we've seen enough evidence of that. I just wondered whether this line on his goal was just a little too high. It felt like it was so close.
I don't know. I mean, so often we see teams get caught offside in that position, but it's just right on the line, isn't it? And sometimes you just have to look at the quality of the ball in, and that is absolutely fantastic. But you're right, it does give the kicker that space to aim at in between goalkeeper and defenders.
But even for defenders having to sprint back towards their own goal, how do they clear it with the head? It's very difficult to clear it up the pitch or even behind your own goal when you're sprinting back towards your own goalkeeper. It just felt to me like Newcastle's line was maybe a yard or two too high.
Oh, it's deflected and in! And Manchester United really have got a grip of it now, with a goal from a player at the peak of his powers. Marcus Rashford forces the deflection, which carries it over Loris Karius.
Manchester United, number 10, Marcus Rashford.
Manchester United really in control now.
Well, Weghorst gets the celebratory cuddle from Rashford. It's just a long kick forward. Weghorst makes half a nuisance of himself and the ball's just moving around. Casemiro in there, Rashford gets a little bit of good fortune, it breaks to Weghorst, and then he makes that little dart. There is a deflection. It wasn't the greatest strike from Marcus Rashford, but the goalkeeper's going down very early, maybe for the first shot, and then his hand, well, he just can't get enough on it, goes over his head. Newcastle, nightmare for them, 40 minutes in.
Well, Rashford, who has shown great mentality this year, will probably try and claim his first major cup final goal, but it may go down as an own goal against Botman. Newcastle's difficulties doubled.
Yeah, I mentioned that 99 final, it went 2-0 up in that game as well. Newcastle couldn't come back. What can Newcastle do here? They need to get to half-time, it feels like, at this moment in time, because they're under big pressure. The Newcastle backroom team, Eddie Howe, a lot of talking.
Jason Tindall is long-serving assistant Graham Jones, who was on the staff that he inherited. Most Newcastle fans, though, wondering if the best part of reaching the cup final is going to be the build-up again.
We talk about Newcastle just trying to get to half-time. What Manchester United did really well in that first 10 or 15 minutes was not panic themselves. As I said, Newcastle were actually on top, making passes, showing good composure, but it always felt to be a stage where Manchester United would come into their own. Look at those stats there. A lot of them in the favour of Newcastle, but small margins decide games. You give away a silly set piece in a dangerous area and you find yourself 1-0 down.
There's been a lot of focus on Karius coming into this game. Do you think he should have saved it?
Yeah, he should have saved that, of course he should, and it's easy to look back now, certainly with the presence and the size and stature of Nick Pope. You know, you think he'd have dealt with that comfortably, but I think the biggest worry for Karius or any Newcastle fan coming in with the goalkeeper was his lack of football, not what happened in a certain game 4 or 5 years ago, and he will lack sharpness and confidence, no doubt.
It's nearly 2 years since Karius' last competitive game for Union Berlin, the two clubs for whom he's played since Liverpool. Botman. Trippier. Rashford concedes the corner.
Goals have been a problem for Newcastle. Really could do with one just before half-time to send them in a happier mood.
Trippier rolls it into the path of Miguel Almiron. It's Trippier's cross! And the header is away from goal, but it was a chance for Newcastle to get a foothold through Dan Burn.
It's another really good example. If you can't win a header as a defender, make sure you're close to someone to put them off. This time it's Luke Shaw doing similar to what Lisandro Martinez did before. He's touched tight, he doesn't jump with him, he's not going to win it, but body to body, he's got a hold of Burn, which makes it difficult for the Newcastle left back.
Botman. Here's Shaw. Well, the year after Newcastle won their last major trophy, Alan Shearer must be wondering if it's the same old story for them. Is Burn. Joe Linton.
Look at him. Those Manchester United fans and players responding to him. He's giving it some. Casemiro. Look, I had doubts when he came. The price tag was huge, the wage is enormous, the contract too long, we all felt. But the impact that he's had on the club, was he coming for the money? Was he coming for a holiday? Not at all.
You don't just need the captain's armband to be a leader.
No. He's been outstanding.
5 minutes to half-time. That long delay earlier because of the clash between Shearer and Martinez.
Well, Fred's been booked already. He's a little bit nervous, looking towards the referee.
I mean, Longstaff's down, but I don't think it was too bad a challenge. I don't think he's got anything to worry about in terms of looking up a second yellow card. Just dangles his leg in there. Longstaff maybe kicks through him.
The two Newcastle players are asking the question, as you'd expect them to. He's been sent off once in his United career in a European tie. Longstaff made plenty of it as he went down. And Fred survives. Here's Weghorst. Sort of brush his hand, but Guimaraes, no way out for him. It's Fernandez. Fred. Casemiro. Shaw. Joe Linton.
That's 15 minutes, Newcastle, 80% possession. It's not gone the way I thought it would this game in terms of that. Manchester United might have more of the ball, but just counter-punched. Newcastle to have it like this at times, a lot of the time.
Anthony's done brilliant in a confined space. And it's about Weghorst who's been released. He's got Rashford up there with him, but goes for it himself! And the best moment of the match for Carrier so far.
Probably one of the best moments for Weghorst as well. Not been known for his goal-scoring ability since he come into Manchester United. He plays a slightly different role, but Carrier stayed at full stretch. That'll certainly do him a bit of good as well. Don't need to keep his composure in that second half. The Newcastle goalkeeper's been sure he's going to be involved in those situations. A lot more counter-attacking from Manchester United second half to try and really kill this game off.
Well, it could kill Newcastle off if they get another one before half-time. Bruno Fernandes seeking to do that with a cross. Shaw, here's Fred. Same page as Diogo Dalot. Cleared by Cher. Shaw. Weghorst. Anthony. He does some magical things in tight spaces, Anthony, but then tried to do it all over again.
He mightn't do it again.
I think Newcastle a little irritated by Anthony's antics.
Yeah, I think if I was Joe Linton, I'd have gone right for him as well. He'd gone past Dan Burn and didn't really need to come back, and he went back to do him again. Brilliant skill from Anthony. Wonderful how he manipulated the ball. That's what he got the booking for. Well, this was that skill. I think both me and you would have snapped there, wouldn't we? Oh, I could feel for Dan Burn. I thought, 15, 20 years ago, you might have just been able to sort of lunge in and get away with it.
You would have snapped, or Anthony would have been snapped. Well, Manchester United halfway towards their 6th League Cup win, and it's the veteran Casemiro who's been a real leader who gave them the lead. Marcus Rashford produced the second with the shot deflected in by Sven Botman. Newcastle with it all to do in the second half. Manchester United 2, Newcastle 0.
Well, David, Newcastle have to go for it, and they are going for it. Isak coming on for Longstaff at the break.
Still 45 minutes to go, 2-0 down. They know exactly what to do. Eddie Howe should have some good words in the half time for the Newcastle players, and we'll see.
They've carried a threat, gives them more of a threat.
It does. We saw him in the semi-finals against Southampton come off the bench, and he was a live wire, so they're hoping he'll do that again today.
Manchester United make a change as well, Roy, with Aaron Wan-Bissaka replacing Diogo Dalot, who was on the yellow.
Yeah, a bit of common sense there. Obviously, he was on the yellow. Wan-Bissaka's pretty decent at 1v1s, and yeah, obviously a sensible decision.
Okay, the teams are out and we are ready to go. Let's rejoin Gary and Jamie, and first of all, Ron.
Yeah, so just confirmation of those changes. Aaron Wan-Bissaka on for Diogo Dalot, whose booking was very early in the game. And the Newcastle substitution sees their club record signing Alexander Isak on for the second half in place of Sean Longstaff. So we'll wait to see how it settles down and how Newcastle reshape. Newcastle, who've had an excellent defensive record so far this season, but scoring goals has been more of a problem for them, especially of late. Got to find one from somewhere, though, against a Manchester United team that hasn't conceded in their last 4 games in this competition. They were behind twice in their third-round tie against Aston Villa. They've not been behind since. They've not conceded a goal in the competition since. Isak at the moment has started in a position just behind Callum Wilson, but it's Manchester United going through with Marcus Rashford, and Fred tries to place one, and that could have given Newcastle a right problem at the start of the second half.
Yeah, not too dissimilar to the run he made at the start of the second half on Thursday night against Barcelona. He found himself in a really good position, tries to guide this into the corner, gets it wrong. Positive changes for Newcastle. A sensible one from Erik ten Hag, I think, for Manchester United.
Here's Botman, who'll thank no one for being credited with an own goal. Headed by Wan-Bissaka, and this is Fred. And now Anthony. Strike force now. Eddie Howe with the introduction of Isak.
Yeah, just in terms of when Newcastle actually have to go more direct now with 2 up front. Of course, you want to get them into the game, but the positivity from the first half, they played through Manchester United quite a few times.
Back by Wan-Bissaka to Fernandes. Here's Rashford. Rashford looking for Fred, who got into the middle again. Botman with the clearance. Now Anthony looks to place one, and that is straight at Loris Karius.
Yeah, he's disappointed with himself. That's his A position for scoring a goal, Anthony. Just a lot of space, 18 yards out.
Anthony, one of 2 Brazilians in the Manchester United team who've celebrated a birthday within the last few days. The other one, Casemiro's already got his goal. Both teams having reacted with half-time changes, but for differing reasons. There's Isak. He did come on and score a late winner against Fulham recently. So a determined run from him. It goes nowhere in the end.
Yeah, there's a good little bit of interchange in positions there with Isak. Just found himself with a bit of time and space. He started well.
Here he is again, Isak. So kicking towards the end where their supporters are hoping and praying that there's some kind of break in their favour to mark a turnaround here. Looking to get in. Cleared by Fernandes. Big horse furthest forward for Manchester United. And Botman policing it and just slightly overstepped the mark. Here's Saint-Maximin. Great tackle from Aaron Wan-Bissaka, which is a real strength of his game. Weghorst, he had 2 over there and he couldn't find either.
Yeah, Wan-Bissaka did brilliant initially. He claims for handball. I don't think that's going to work.
Silva's trying to pull his hand out of the way.
Well, I think these Newcastle changes that have been made are going to make this game end-to-end and really exciting for a period in this second half. They're going for it straight away. Anyhow, not waiting. And they've got some big lads. Pretty similar position to Manchester United's free kick in the first half, but on the opposite side.
Manchester United, very similar line to Newcastle United as well.
And as with the free kick that led to Manchester United's goal, it's an England fullback who's going to take it in the form of Kieran Trippier.
Just think when those players actually stand offside initially, their job is to actually block the Manchester United players who are going to try and get back in.
Trippier drifts it across and United's defence does its job, although Isak looks to keep them under pressure. And they've defended it well.
That delivery from Trippier was actually as good as Luke Shaw's, just that Newcastle United player couldn't get his head on it like Casemiro.
Almiron just tries to prod it through. There's Varane. Now Wan-Bissaka. And back by Wilson. Isak. There's St. Maximan. Oh, yeah. We had Newcastle's best moment of the first half with the attempt from the angle that David De Gea had to force away. That was more on the embarrassing side. I wonder if it's going to be that kind of day again. Here's Wilson. Now Guimaraes. Almiron rolls it into the path of Trippier. It's a decent ball in. And Wilson with that near post run.
And they want the corner. It did look like Martinez had got there, the near post. Let's have a look. Maybe he heads it back off Callum Wilson. It's 50-50.
Manchester United now having to use the kind of dark arts perhaps that they were worried Newcastle might be in a position to use. Every second counts. There's Martinez. Now Shaw. Rashford escapes from Trippier, not from Guimaraes. This is Bruno Fernandes. Lines up the shot.
He complains, he whinges and he gets it. Newcastle players not happy because initially it looked like the referee was pointing for a goal kick.
Fernandes will be happy to get into the heads of the Newcastle players from this position. Luke Shaw, who set up the breakthrough goal, is being well applauded as he comes over to take this corner kick.
Well, he's become such an important player, an important part of Manchester United's attack. Fielding at centre-back as well, Luke Shaw, but his play going forward has been outstanding in these last few weeks.
Tries to put a corner onto Marcus Rashford's head. But Dan Burn ensuring that it doesn't get there. Still no let-up though for the Newcastle defence, who had the job at the moment of keeping them in the game. And know that if they were to concede a third, it probably would be game over for them. Here's Rashford. Shaw with the ball in, Weghorst with a header. His only goal for Manchester United was in this competition in the semi-final against Nottingham Forest. Botman. It's a share. Now Trippier. Wilson.
I mean, you're right, Gary, this game will become end-to-end for obvious reasons, but of course Newcastle want to get back into the game, but it's vitally important that they don't allow Manchester United to get that third goal to really kill the game. If Newcastle will get a goal with 10, 15 minutes to go, this place will erupt, certainly with them attacking the end of their own supporters.
Eddie Howe's first game in management with Bournemouth was at Darlington when his side scored, or when his side conceded 2 goals in the last 10 minutes to deny him a win. Isak sets off. Botman's given him plenty of work to do. Be a push from Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but that's not the verdict.
I was just looking at him, Sam Maximan, and Wan-Bissaka helps him on his way.
There's Anthony, closing down by Guimaraes, now Almiron. Maximan looking for a way past Wan-Bissaka, cleared to Anthony. Byrne puts the pressure on to win it back. So Maximan leaves it behind for Guimaraes. Tries to dance away through, but surrounded. Byrne wouldn't play for him either. Fred is covering at the back.
Well, that's lifted the crowd. You've got to hope he's all right. He went down in that first half. Even though Newcastle find themselves 2-0 down, I think he's been really good. I think he's been excellent. Always prepared to take the ball. There's no real coming together. He just blocks the ball. He just goes over on his ankle. I don't think he's made the initial challenge yet. I think he's been really good today. Takes the ball in difficult positions, just like this as well. Almost gets Dan Burn in. You just realise why he is so important to this Newcastle team. Just as his studs get so caught in the ground after he clears the ball out.
Joel Linton towering over him with some concern.
Well, he took one step up at half-time, Eddie Howe, to lose a second midfield player, particularly him just after half-time. Be a huge blow. He's getting up. It's a good sight, particularly for those Newcastle fans.
Still discomfort putting weight on it at the moment for Bruno Guimaraes. Certainly the spray does the trick.
Yeah, with those ones you sometimes get away with them, sometimes you don't. They can wear off.
Almiron. There's Isak. There's Maximan. Isak reading the same script then.
Yeah, it's just interesting watching Casemiro. Obviously, Longstaff going off. Newcastle have only got two in midfield. He becomes free, Casemiro, and he's just dropped deeper. And he's just surveying and guarding that back line of Manchester United, dropping almost as a third centre-back there in that situation. Really clever.
Manchester United's ownership in question. Still some talk of Manchester United supporters that the Glazers won't leave, and Avram Glazer, the co-chairman, is here today.
Yeah, that is the great fear. There's a full rendition in the first half of We Want Glazers Out. The fans are letting him know.
Despite the fact that they are within sight, half an hour away now from winning their first trophy in 6 years, and the first of the Erik ten Hag era. Serial winner at Ajax. That's why he was employed by Manchester United. And if they do get this one in the bag, still 3 more to fight for this season. Real Betis to come in Europe, West Ham to come in the FA Cup. Still on the fringes of the Premier League title race. Martinez, a player that Ten Hag knew well before bringing him in.
Yeah, he's happy when he's having a scrap with someone, Martinez.
Could there be a point at which fatigue does kick in for Manchester United after their exertions from Thursday? That may be the hope for Newcastle if they can keep it at this scoreline, approaching the final quarter of an hour perhaps.
Yeah, that's a good point. One thing about Erik ten Hag though, he does seem to read that, and I can see him putting someone up with pace, putting Rashford up top and maybe bringing Sancho on for Weghorst or something like that in the next 10 minutes. Manchester United do have some energy and fresh legs on the pitch.
There's Anthony, turned into trouble there against St Maximan, who gets away from Bruno Fernandes. He's got options up there with him, Alan St Maximan. Isak had just dropped deep, it's come back off Fred. Here's Isak. Shaw forcing him away from danger. Fred was having to be careful with his challenge anyway in the area, but they did enough in the end.
To be fair to Isak, he would have been really disappointed didn't start the game, but he has actually come on almost with a point to prove to, almost to show to his manager he was wrong not to start. So every time he gets it, he looks really positive. It feels like if anything's going to happen in the second half of Newcastle, he's going to be at the heart of it.
You made a really good point before. There's still 30 minutes this game to go. Newcastle don't have to score straight away. What's really important is that they're in the game with 10 minutes to go. If you can get a goal then, it is game on. The way to chase a game isn't to get desperate too early.
Trippier. Here is Isak, and Maximan free. Now Joe Linton. This is Almiron. Almiron picks it up again. Wilson trying to help him out, and he has. Almiron, blocked by Martinez. There's the danger for Newcastle being caught at the other end. Rashford measured, holds it up. Waiting for Weghorst to get into the right position, and Cher nicks it away from him as Newcastle come again. Here's Alan Saint-Maximin. Byrne has burst forward. Saint-Maximin trying to do as much as he can on his own. He has won them a corner.
Yeah, real passion from Saint-Maximin.
I think that's been a brilliant change from Erik ten Hag. It may seem an obvious one, but I think Wan-Bissaka, since he's come on, has defended brilliantly in those 1v1 situations. That's why I felt he'd start the game. But I think when Saint-Maximin's now running at him, he hasn't got real confidence. He can certainly beat him on the outside. He keeps checking in on that right foot. That's when he keeps coming into bodies.
Trippier's corner given back to him by Fabian Cher, then pulled all the way back to Botman. This is a very long way round. Trippier again. Thought he was obstructed by Martinez, but nothing doing from that. Here's Almiron. Newcastle stepping it up here, feeling there is yet something in it for them in this final.
Yeah, this bit's important. When United clear it out, Manchester United clear it out, they have to sustain attacks. Don't allow Manchester United to counter.
Fred hoping to launch a counter. Weghorst though can't get the touch. And it's been brought back.
Yeah, he'll get a box in as well. It's Botman who slams the ball down, he does. Stupid. He get away with that.
Angry reaction from Botman, so on top of his own goal, a booking as well now for the Dutchman.
I understand the frustration. It's soft. Oh, Fred. Botman snaps.
Yeah, you mentioned that role of Casemiro just in front of the centre-backs earlier on, Gary, and just feels like Newcastle are getting to the edge of the box, but there's no real sort of belief where that pass or shot or cross is going to come from. Just feels like there's so many players there, and they're more than happy to let Newcastle come onto them.
Here's Saint-Maximin. Well, Wan-Bissaka's perseverance paid off, it seemed, but the free kick's been given. McTominay and Marcel Sabitzer coming on for Erik ten Hag, although it looks as though he is just going to wait to see this free kick through defensively first.
Yeah, they weren't the ones I was expecting, but doesn't often get it wrong, Erik ten Hag. That's almost sending a message to his team. We've won this game once, we don't need to go and win it again. Let's manage and control the rest of this football match.
And looking to make life difficult. It's Joe Linton with the shot. It's back to Callum Wilson, and there's another one.
Well, both centre-backs, Varane and Martinez, desperately diving in front of David De Gea. De Gea himself comes out on this first one, doesn't really get it clear. It's Wan-Bissaka, sorry. This one is Martinez.
Newcastle getting glimpses, but still looking for that clear sight of goal. Trippier's kick is a deep one. Cher gets up to try and get it back. Fails to do so. Having seen that through, now the Manchester United manager can make his changes. Again, the withdrawal of Fred is a sensible one in terms of the fact that he was on a booking. So Sabitzer comes on for him, and Wout Weghorst is the player whose number is up for the arrival of Scott McTominay.
Yeah, that releases Rashford to go up top, which isn't a surprise. Manchester United had to have a counter-attacking option up top with this last 20 minutes. It solidifies the midfield. Bruno goes over to the left. of that front three, it looks like. Sabitzer and McTominay with Casemiro.
McTominay is only recently back from injury himself, and for Sabitzer it is a debut in this competition that Erik ten Hag has given him here in the final with a little over 20 minutes remaining.
And the thing about Erik ten Hag as well is he trusts his squad. He brings them all on in important moments of the match.
And Byrne did manage to get to it, but neither Wilson nor St Maximin could really profit from that.
And there you go, Newcastle. Massive possession. A few shots. Nothing really materialised in terms of great chances. I mentioned Casemiro, we talked about him a lot, but when he plays, Manchester United are just a lot harder to score against, and they have a lot less shots against them. Just seems to block so much and marshal everybody.
Here's Fernandez. Looking for Luke Shaw. Trippier though, able to run it out. Well, scoring at Wembley has been a problem for Newcastle. They did get a goal in losing their only previous League Cup final appearance, Alan Gowling's goal back in 1976 when they lost to Manchester City. They've only scored once in 6 visits since. The Rob Lee header in an FA Cup semi-final. Here's St Maximin. Joelinton. Guimaraes works it through to Trippier! And De Gea got a crucial touch because Callum Wilson's eyes were lighting up then. Flag was up anyway as it turned out against Trippier.
Just maybe got ahead, but you talked, Cara, about where's the quality going to come from. This pass is fantastic. Brilliant goalkeeping from De Gea. His anticipation there to block that pass across the box from Trippier.
Yeah, I just feel like it will be Guimaraes if there is that quality. St Maximin's had one of those games that we've seen him had so often where he looks dangerous running with the ball, but the end product's just not there at all. Just been giving the ball away last few times he's had it in dangerous positions, and we haven't really seen too much of that combination that we saw so often in the first half between Almiron and Trippier down that side. That time it was between Guimaraes and Trippier just catching himself offside.
Here's Cher. Sabitzer wins the tackle and plays it through to Marcus Rashford. And Rashford goes for goal. Comes back off carriers, but there's no one there to take advantage.
Yeah, that threat's going to increase with Rashford there.
It's Luke Shaw. Again, they've defended it. Manchester United now starting to build up some momentum.
Yeah, the counter-attack's on, Sabitzer in midfield, breaks up play and releases Rashford.
I mean, in some ways, Manchester United attacking on that counter-attack. Maybe give Newcastle an opportunity, didn't quite finish it, but Rashford gets a good strike away. Decent save by the goalkeeper.
Here's Sabitzer.
It's been 20 minutes of Newcastle pressure, but it's in the last couple of minutes Manchester United punching back. got three good defensive players in there now in Sabitzer, McTominay and Casemiro, who can all break up play and release that counter-attack. Anthony, Rashford and Bruno Fernandes. You see them in shot there, those three red shirts.
Joe Linton could free Callum Wilson here. He's short of options in the middle. Isak was arriving, but by that time Manchester United had managed to organise themselves.
Yeah, Callum Wilson, it's not been his day so far. His quality's got to improve with that final part.
Rashford. Steered by Byrne out to Bruno Guimaraes. Saka. Here's McTominay. Decisive slide from Dan Byrne. McTominay, Rashford, just trying to help it on, hindering though. Saka trying to retrieve it, gives away the free kick.
Yeah, since those substitutions, United do look quite strong in midfield and just started to come on top a little bit in the game. It's become a little bit more difficult for Newcastle to get forward.
They're waiting to make some changes of their own. There's Isak. Back by Sabitzer, who's running back a lot since he came on. Trippier. Fernandes, this is Sabitzer, and sharing the line of fire. Shaw. Showing their way through, this is Trippier. Guimaraes. Launched by Botman with the intention of setting Alan St-Maximin away, and David De Gea might have had thoughts of Nick Pope echoing through his head.
Well, he's been back to something like his best, David De Gea, recently.
Double change. Jacob Murphy actually was from this area originally, born in Wembley, but grew up following his parents' line of being a Newcastle fan. He's coming on in place of Alan St-Maximin, who's flickered without being able to fully deliver. And he's coming on with an instruction, it seems, for somebody. And Bruno Guimaraes is off with Joe Willock on. So the contents of the note being passed around. A little bit of a reorganisation. So maybe try and confuse Manchester United into conceding one here. Byrne hurls it in. Anthony, that was the touch it needed to set Manchester United away. Fernandes has got Rashford ahead of him, but it's opening up for himself. Looks for Rashford, and there's a diverting touch to take it away.
Trippier did really, really well. Some defenders get drawn across there, but Bruno Fernandes wanted Trippier to leave Marcus Rashford so he could slip it past him. He delayed and delayed. Excellent work.
Here's Isak. Now Murphy. Wins for Newcastle a corner.
Yeah, and as I said earlier on in the game, you could see Newcastle wanted to go direct. We've just seen Dan Burn with a long throw in, so it was definitely an area where they thought they could capitalise on at some stage in this game. Obviously remains to be seen, but Manchester United have looked rock solid all day. There's never been that real belief, even watching the game, that Newcastle were going to get a goal, no matter how well they played in that first half and at times in the second half.
Trippier's corner. And Fernandes had a problem dealing with it. There's been a big appeal as Cher went down. It's been looked at again. It's a coming together between Fernandes and Cher, and the check is now complete.
It's a poor delivery from Newcastle. You think Weghorst is not in there. Manchester United have lost height.
Here's Isak.
And that's where Manchester United have been fantastic today. They've been defending the edge of their own box. So many bodies in the way. Not exactly the same there. They've just so much experience and know-how within this game. Newcastle will talk about a lot of the play that they've had, but this was the scream for a penalty behind that goal. No. Obviously sharp desperation kicking in. Desperate to get something. It was never a penalty.
Well, it all stemmed from a poor corner. They need to get the delivery right this time. Trippier's kick swung it towards the near post. Casemiro dealt with it. Anthony leads the charge out, and Jacob Murphy has to try and contain him here. If he does, wins the free kick after a struggle.
Well, that was twice from Jacob Murphy. One earlier on as well. He's done really well. There's a sub there to stop what you might feel might be an inevitable third goal. There's another change for Manchester United.
And that was Anthony's last act, because he's the man coming off. And Jadon Sancho, who has had an impact from the bench on a couple of occasions recently in scoring goals, will get the opportunity to do so at Wembley, where I'm sure he would love the opportunity to banish the demons that he and Marcus Rashford suffered in the penalty shootout of the Euros final. Gareth Southgate is here today watching. The man who's won this trophy himself. Captained Middlesbrough to their success. There's Fernandes, won back by Joe Willock. Well, Newcastle have managed to hold it at 2-0 going into the final 10 minutes, but the other part of the equation is they need a goal and they need it fast. Here's Joe Linton. This is Trippier. Murphy.
Oh, he can't do that. Anything but that.
I thought they contractually had to be seen together after the longest man-marking job in showbiz history. Ant's there. There's Deck.
Oh, there he is, top left. I'm a celebrity.
Get me out of here.
Yes, no Sunday night takeaway for them from this.
Just think about those Newcastle fans. We obviously all over London last night, 40,000 of them coming down. And the thing that you feel, I've felt it before in the cup final where I've lost, where you feel like you've let your fans down, you don't even give them a shout or a scream, and Newcastle have got probably 10 minutes with added time. They want to give those fans a smile, and at least a feeling that they can do something. He's just drifting away, this game at the moment.
Here's Isak. Byrne trying to drive it across.
Well, Trippier's delivery in these last two corners has been really poor. He gets another chance here. This one's got to be spot on. They've got big bodies in there.
For all Manchester United's complaints about potential Newcastle time wasting, David De Gea has been booked for just that offence. Trippier's kick is dangerous this time. It's swinging in towards De Gea, but the goalkeeper copes with it. Back in by Miguel Almiron. Sabitzer gets it clear.
What a ball.
Bruno Fernandes it is, and with it he picks out Marcus Rashford. Botman had switched off then, and Sancho just picks it up and tries to feed Rashford, forced him wider than he wanted to be. Sancho, Wan-Bissaka comes onto it, and it is directly at Loris Karius. Here's Willock.
He's just hard to beat, Wan-Bissaka on the outside. Even if you think you've got it past him, those legs just stretch and reach.
I mean, so often as defenders growing up, you're told to show people inside to where numbers are, but he's that quick and that good defensively 1v1. He always shows the outside, and you can see the lack of confidence that people are going to go past him. But this may be one of the last few opportunities for Newcastle now. Dangerous position. And you mentioned Trippier's delivery, Gary.
He's late, Casemiro.
It's a yellow card as a result. Well, Manchester United's breakthrough was with a free kick from the left-hand side, taken by Luke Shaw, converted by the man who's just given away this free kick. Trippier lifts it in, McTominay got ahead to it. Rashford clears the danger for now. Here's Jacob Murphy, hits a long ranger, and De Gea was just watching and hoping.
Well, as he was going to hit it, I was thinking no. But it looks like it really catches David De Gea. Maybe he's blocked by McTominay and Wan-Bissaka. Doesn't get a good sight of it. It's not far away.
Well, both club captains for each team started on the bench. Jamal Lascelles of Newcastle and Harry Maguire of Manchester United, but Maguire is going to see some minutes at least with Marcus Rashford off.
We're going 5 at the back.
It does feel like a complete shift from one season to another, Gary, in terms of Manchester United, that spirit, togetherness. I mean, can that be all down to the manager? The new players have come in. They looked broken at times last season.
It absolutely was broken. They were divided. And there were parts of this season where you wondered, Erik ten Hag, he's got a strong grip on them, brought them together. And I have to say, he can't put a foot wrong with his in-game management. Even the substitutions of the midfield players has closed this game out and made it very comfortable for them. They've just got a few minutes to go. But Newcastle have played well in this second half and just haven't found a way through.
Here's Almiron. Joelinton. Samira. Botman just eases Jadon Sancho out of the way. Byrne. It's Joe Linton. Here's Trippier. And towards Wilson, and a lucky break the second time, wouldn't drop for him. Determination to win it back didn't please Lisandro Martinez at all, and one or two others getting involved now as well.
I said before, he just loves a row. He likes it, he enjoys it, the confrontation.
The Butcher when he was in Amsterdam.
He's just aggressive, he's tenacious. And him and Varane striking a partnership back there.
As in the first half, 5 minutes have been added here, which has given Eddie Howe the opportunity to send on a player with whom he has a long-standing relationship. Placing one former Bournemouth man, Callum Wilson, bringing on Matt Ritchie. Elliot Anderson's on as well. Almiron does not end the match on the pitch. Here's Jacob Murphy. Byrne trying to find a way through, but Manchester United sticking this out with grim determination. Had a second booking for delaying a restart. Luke Shaw was the player shown a yellow card this time. Ritchie on in the nick of time to show us his speciality, and the flicked header is pushed away by De Gea.
It's a loopy one, awkward for De Gea.
Well, they may be losing here, but the Newcastle fans still waving their flags. The occasion's been an enjoyable one for them, even if so far the result hasn't been. It's now looking increasingly likely that they'll be walking away from Wembley defeated again. And they came determined to have a good time, no matter what the result was this time. But there's problems here as McTominay wins it back, and Bruno Fernandes is on the surge. He could set up Sancho, he could go alone. Karius denies him.
Yeah, it's game over anyway right now. Bruno Fernandes got his head in his hands, but he's going to be a winner today. Just a decision for him, but he put that across. But maybe with the game already won, he's a little bit selfish, but he had himself in a great opportunity. That's a brilliant goalkeeper by Karius. We know he didn't cover himself in glory. That second goal for Manchester United, but he stopped it being 3.
Scott McTominay. One thing Newcastle are determined to do is ensure that the scoreline doesn't get any wider from this point. Final minute approaches. The 6-year wait for a trophy almost over for Manchester United. The 54-year wait for Newcastle is about to be extended still further. They just want to hear that final whistle now, and then the party can really start. They're certainly ready to start it. I'm sure we'll hear the final whistle when it does go. Martinez. It's a free kick to Manchester United, and again things have just got a little bit silly at the end. Ball's got away from Newcastle, but still one or two flashes of temper from their players who don't want to be teased and taunted to the end of this game.
Eric Ten Hag earlier on in the week suggested that Newcastle knew the dark arts of the game, but his team have been streetwise in this second half. I mentioned that Casemiro, Martinez, Varane, they've been around the block and they've shown it. Real experience and maturity in this performance. They know what they're doing out there. It's hard when you're 2-0 up to keep a team at bay that are throwing everything at you, but they've done it really, really well. They've managed this game out in real style.
Fernandes has taken the kick, aim for the corner. 9 months into his reign, Eric Ten Hag has his first trophy as Manchester United manager, and he'll be determined that it's not the last. He consoles Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall as Newcastle leave Wembley defeated again, but this feels like a watershed moment for this Manchester United side. Beaten in the first 2 matches of the Dutchman's reign, but this is the first sign that they have bounced back with 3 other trophies still to go for this season. The leadership of Casemiro, crucial. He got the first goal, the header from a Luke Shaw free kick, and it was just 6 minutes later when Marcus Rashford broke through, got a deflection off Sven Botman that looped over Loris Karius, and Newcastle were unable to fight back from that position.
Because they know that with the new investors, this is something that could happen every year. This is just the beginning. I mean, this year they're 5th in the table, they reached the final of the Carabao Cup, and it sounds good. It sounds good. Now it's the start of the building of something great, building history.
But the next step for Newcastle is the hardest one. There's expectation now with the club. Obviously the lads having a bit of a dance there, oh my goodness.
The manager's having a bit of a dance.
Not bad actually, to be fair. I'll give him a little bit of credit. And he got me 2 tickets, so I can't be critical. But the next step now for Newcastle is going to be the hardest. Expectation, it's okay getting to a final. We've said all along, it's about getting your hands on a trophy, which is very, very difficult. We've seen United struggle for the last few years. So the next step now for Newcastle is going to be the hardest one, but they're certainly on the right path.
There's a massive hug there for Casemiro, and what a signing he has been.
Amazing, amazing. Obviously a brilliant player, we knew that, but sometimes you need to see him close up to show how good he is. He's adapted to the English game, obviously. He's adding goals to his game. He's obviously a big personality. He's won the big prizes before, but it looks, if you look at the players' reaction from United, it looks like it's the first trophy some of them have won.
Here comes the handover. The League Cup is back in Manchester, but this time in the possession of United. The 6th time